Just how many of us, when we let our minds drift, find that our pencils drift right along with it? To the doodler, the canvas can be anything: a napkin, a margin, a soon-to-be-discarded envelope. Yet, for all its ubiquity, the doodle seems to be the artistic equivalent of Rodney Dangerfield. It just gets no respect. Even the Oxford English Dictionary reduces the doodle to a drawing made absent-mindedly.
Face, tongue.
And boy, does that upset doodler Sonny Brown. You don't even like the definition of doodle.
I don't like the definition. I'm not pleased with the definition. That is correct.
What's wrong with the definition?
It's totally inaccurate. It's not an accurate representation of what's happening for a doodler.
This is basically what your notepad looks like. A bunch of drawings and arrows and...
Yes.
Brown is convinced that doodling isn't a mindless activity, but instead engages the mind in a way that helps us think. So much so, she's written a manifesto of sorts called The Doodle Revolution that lays out her case.
I want to flip the entire conversation and be like, okay, let's actually acknowledge this as a valuable tool and as a valuable technique. What then can we do with it? All systems.
For her, drawing what she calls info doodles can help in problem solving and aid in memory retention by creating a visual language that she insists is more powerful than most people know.
I've seen people tackling serious challenges and they inevitably go straight to the whiteboard or straight to the wall and start mapping it to have a more effective conversation. And then you have that visual explanation for people to understand what's really happening.
Her Austin-based consultancy, SB Inc., now offers doodling workshops. Her clients are major retailers and media companies who are starting to catch on. But the doodle, she says, still has doubters.
There are skeptics everywhere. I encounter them all the time, and I love them.
What do those critics say, though? I mean, if you come in and...
Oh, they say all the usual stuff. They say, oh, it's a waste of time. Oh, it's mindless scratching. They say everything that you would expect them to say when you misunderstand and you underestimate something.
Andrew Silton stopped underestimating the power of the doodle after he realized he'd been doing it most of his professional life.
For me, it was definitely something more. I actually think it was rather important.
Over a career that spanned 3 decades in asset management, Silton amassed oodles of doodles, drawn while he was actually leading important financial meetings all over the world.
This was a meeting with a bunch of senior bank executives to talk about budget issues.
The longer the meetings, the more detailed the doodles. And what do you think prompted it? Were you just bored in the meetings?
No, I think it was actually a way of staying engaged in the meeting.
Kept you from checking out?
Yeah, definitely.
Because why? What happens in your brain, you think?
I suspect that what it does is it occupied me from thinking about other stuff.
That notion that doodles may open the door to better concentration has been getting the attention of researchers of late. In a study published in the journal Applied Cognitive Psychology in 2009, researcher Jackie Andrade played a tedious voicemail to a group of volunteers. Some were asked to doodle, while others simply listened to the message. Well, it turns out the doodlers remembered 29% more details than the non-doodling group.
Doodling has been grossly understudied. It is one of the most neglected day-to-day activities.
Jesse Prinz teaches philosophy of the mind at the City University of New York. His blue hair is as much a trademark as his obsession with doodling heads.
They're all scrap paper. Every one of them is on some sheet. Great environmental message here.
He's drawn thousands of them, all while he was supposed to be paying attention to something else.
Every single picture you see here was drawn during an academic lecture.
He's so convinced that doodling helped him remember those lectures better, he actually encourages it in his own classroom. So do you want kids to be doodling while you're lecturing?
Absolutely.
You really do?
Absolutely.
You're not offended by
I
that?
think we should train people to doodle.
The reason is simple. To his mind, doodling isn't just a distraction from boredom. It may actually keep us from daydreaming and zoning out altogether.
Think about mindless drawing as a way to take all those things that distract you, all those subjects that you ruminate on, and clearing them away and opening this space where information can get in.
Doodling is that sweet spot where it keeps you just attentive enough.
Doodling is the attentional sweet spot.
So what do you think makes a doodler and somebody who just doesn't really do it?
I think dull people don't doodle.
For a perspective a little closer to home, we turn to our own artist in residence, Morley Safer of 60 Minutes.
Now this one is purely abstract. Don't ask me what the hell that means.
He says he does between 5 and 10 doodles daily. His desk is covered with them, from the obscure to the familiar.
Well, one of the things I really like, I'm fascinated by in New York, are the water towers on top of buildings. They seem to give the city a real personality. It's sort of drawings by the unconscious mind in a certain way. It's where the hand kind of takes over.
Does it serve some kind of purpose for you, you think?
It's very satisfying, obviously. I mean, if it was painful, I wouldn't be doing it.
Good point. Perhaps that's why so many U.S. presidents doodled. John F. Kennedy often doodled sailboats. Ronald Reagan drew cowboys. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was caught doodling during a UN Security Council meeting. Mark Twain, even Fyodor Dostoevsky, both were habitual doodlers. There was a time, it seemed, when doodles were black and white proof that the usually embarrassed artist wasn't really paying attention. And while everyone agrees it warrants more study, it just may turn out that doodling is a window to clarity.
Maybe doodles define us, right?
Maybe.
It tells us who we are.
Or who we're not.
Yeah.